Welcome to the Slow Living Collective podcast. I'm Amy, wife, mother of two and devoted homemaker. Join me on this journey as we explore the beauty of slow and simple living, where life unfolds at its own unhurried pace. I'll take you through my experiences of slowing down, tending to our allotment plot, finding joy in the little things and making the most of our small home. Together we'll learn to live in harmony with the ever-changing seasons, discovering the magic that lies in embracing the present moment. So let's embark on this enriching adventure towards a more intentional and fulfilling life. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Slow Living Collective podcast. Thank you so much for joining me in today's episode. Can I just ask you guys a quick favour? I haven't asked this for, I think, a super long time. I know I kind of did in last week's episode, but never addressed it so early in the episode before. With you guys who listen frequently and, you guys message me and tell me you love the podcast, would you leave me a rating or a review wherever you listen to your podcasts? It just helps the show so much and helps other people who are interested in these topics find the show as well. It would help me so much if you just took a few seconds, either now or when you finish the episode, to just leave a rating or review. I would, like I say, appreciate it so much. Okay, let's dive into the episode. Today, I want to talk about urban homesteading and, more importantly, your urban homestead kitchen. I want to dive into some of the essential tools that you need to create your urban homestead kitchen. Now, listen, it is this massive big misconception that if you want to be a homesteader, you have to wait. You have to wait till you have land. You have to wait till you can afford to buy a farm or a homestead or a small holding. I'm here to tell you it's a load of rubbish, right? Because I don't want any of those things. I don't want to live on a farm. I don't want a homestead. I don't want a small holding. I just want to live in a house, to be honest, because we've been trapped in our flat for so many years because of the cladding crisis. All I want is a house. I don't want to raise chickens. I don't want to have a dairy cow. I don't want to raise animals for meat. I don't want any of that. But I love so many aspects of homesteading outside of that, and I'm here to tell you that you can absolutely embrace homesteading even in a flat, an apartment, a house, in the middle of a city, wherever. You don't have to want to have chickens or cows or anything like that. So today I want to dive into how to create your urban homestead kitchen, what you need, and just basically, whether you're starting this journey or whether you've been a homesteader for a while, I'm hoping that this episode is going to help you to create a functional and sustainable kitchen that's right at the heart of your home. Calling all sourdough enthusiasts, if you've been wondering what to do with all of that precious sourdough discard, I have some exciting news for you. Say hello to my free recipe guide, The Sourdough Discard Kitchen, your key to turning that discard into something truly amazing. Unleash new flavours and textures in your cooking and baking and explore a world of recipes and ideas with your sourdough discard. It is time to transform your sourdough routine. Visit theslowlivingcollective.com/sourdough to download your free guide. It's so funny because the kitchen is often considered the heart of any home, but also of the homestead as well. So I am obviously going to be talking in this episode about urban homesteading. Obviously, there is a vast difference between homesteading and urban homesteading, and it's actually something that my husband and I have talked about in detail before because, we love so many elements of homesteading, but raising animals is not for us. And that's okay. That's completely okay. I've said it in multiple episodes, I think, as well, that, I don't even want back garden chickens. That's not for me. I know where I can get the things that I like. And I think that there's this really big misconception that you're not homesteading if you don't have the dairy cow or you don't have the chickens. And there is so much more to urban homesteading than those things. So that's, I guess, the direction of this episode, that I do get that there is a difference between true homesteading and urban homesteading, but urban homesteading is just as valid. And I want to talk about the kitchen in the urban homestead because it is I think, the absolute centre of urban homesteading, because, there's not this sort of outside part of the homestead to the extent there might be on a typical homestead. Like I've said, there's probably not chickens. There's probably not a dairy cow. You probably don't have a lot of land. So I think the kitchen is this real focal point on the urban homestead. And it's really important for things like self-sufficiency, sustainability, and food preservation as well. So I want to talk to you today about all of those things. I want to talk about what my urban homestead kitchen looks like, how you can get started, and I don't want you to ever feel like what you do is not valid. I don't want you to listen to the fact that because you don't have chickens or a dairy cow or land, that what you do isn't valid. So let's scrub that off the table. If anybody says that to you, tell them I'm urban homesteading, so, I'm good, thanks. Because I have heard it said by so many people who have their own homesteads now that the greatest regret they have is not starting when they didn't have their homestead, because there is so much that can be learned, particularly in the homestead kitchen, that you can spend years and years cultivating while you wait for your land and your homestead or your farm, if that's your ultimate goal. And there is also, people that are just like me who are like, actually raising chickens and animals and having dairy cows and things like that, it's not for me. I'm actually happy stopping right here. So all of those things are valid. That's what I want you to take away from this episode. You are not any less because you don't have the homestead things. You are cultivating your own urban homestead, and if actually owning a traditional homestead is your goal, then there is so much that can be learned in your waiting period. And if owning your own homestead is not your goal, then you're doing great just here. Whatever the future looks like for you, start here, because don't let anybody else hold you back, is what I'm trying to say. Don't let anybody else's opinion of you hold you back. Sometimes when I talk about urban homesteading, I'm so often fearful that someone's going to be like, well, it's not really a homestead, right? And it's like, well, I'm not claiming it to be a homestead. I'm claiming it to be an urban homestead, and that's just what it looks like for me. If it doesn't look like that for you, then that's fine. So today, like I said, we're going to dive into the kitchen element because I feel like it is the major part of urban homesteading. Maybe other homesteaders who have their own homesteads could actually let me know. I don't know. You can message me on Instagram at the Slow Living Collective and let me know what you think in terms of homesteading versus urban homesteading. Is the kitchen still a key component to your homestead, or does it run side by side? Like, what is the most important thing in your homestead? I'm really, really curious. Like I said, homesteading in general is not for me, but urban homesteading, I am right there. So one of the main things I want to talk about when it comes to urban homesteading is, I guess, baking. Baking is a massive one for me. And it is something that I am always fiddling around doing in the kitchen. Now, that can come from growing our own produce. It can be searching for local produce. Like I said, not wanting to be a homesteader and not currently being a homesteader, it does mean that I don't have the same access to eggs, as an example. So lots of people want chickens because they want to get eggs, and for me, all of those things can exist externally. They don't have to be something that I am growing or doing myself. And in that sense, I think I spoke about in a previous episode about just really relishing what your resources are. Find out about your local area. Find out what works in your life. So for us, eggs is a big one. We don't buy supermarket eggs. We do buy farm fresh eggs. So we have a local farm that sells eggs by the tray. We usually buy 30 at a time. And for us, that is much more sustainable for us than if we were to buy chickens, right? So Firstly, the cost of eggs from the farm is a lot cheaper than the supermarket. The eggs are farm fresh eggs. We are happy that we are able to support a local business, that we're getting farm fresh eggs, that we're doing the best we can do, and also we don't have to have our own chickens. And so we're really happy with that, and it enables us to feel comfortable in some of the resources that we have. And another thing that we do is honey. I will never be a beekeeper. I have a really bad sting allergy when it comes to bees. So beekeeping is not going to be for me, unfortunately. Find it fascinating, find bees fascinating. And we last summer we went to a local festival, and they had some local beekeepers from Hertfordshire, the part of Hertfordshire that I'm from, and they had bees there that we could look at, and it was the first time that I've ever been able to get close to a bee, because having an allergy obviously puts a little bit of fear in me, and so yeah, it was really interesting. We buy our honey locally from a local beekeeper, and we are definitely pro raw honey. That is a big deal for us. Raw honey is really important to us, but also local honey is important to us as well. So we purchased that via local beekeepers, and yeah, we love it. Again, another thing you can do is just digging into your resources, and that also comes from buying our own produce. We buy meat from local farms, we buy produce from local farms, we shop around. A lot of the farms in Hertfordshire, they sell a lot of produce that's very local, and so we're really lucky with that. We also buy from Riverford. Riverford are fantastic. They are based, I believe, in Devon and in Norfolk, I think, if I'm right. And they have completely organic, freshly picked, like you select your box and then they pick it for you. And so we get our organic fruit and veg there. Organic is so important to us. We don't want to be consuming herbicides and pesticides and any other sides that end up on our produce. Is absolutely so detrimental for our health. And I know buying organic is a privilege, especially in these times, but it's something that we prioritize hugely in our food bill. And when I say that, I mean, we're a one income family by choice, but we have to make cuts in places so that we can have things in other places. And so buying organic is something that's really, really important to us. So that's just using those resources on where you can get those things, the local meat, the local produce, the local honey, local farm fresh eggs, purchasing organic from somewhere like Riverford. Those are great tips if you are an urban homesteader. Just looking around what's local to you, where can you get your eggs, where can you get your produce, where can you get your meat if you're a meat eater. We also like to drink raw milk. We have a farm, thankfully, really close to us that we can purchase our raw milk from. And so it's just about digging into your community and finding out what's there, what would work for you. And then I think when it comes to urban homesteading, especially if you're somebody who is looking to homestead in the future, when you're able to tap into all of these local resources, I think you will find that you really find your flow. Because, for example, I know that I get eggs from here, and I purchase my meat from here, and we get our Riverford box, and anything that we top up, like I said, we're really passionate about organic, so anything we top up from the supermarket. But over time, we have really, really pulled back from the supermarket because we are embracing using our resources elsewhere. Are you looking for a delicious way to live a more sustainable and mindful life? Look no further, because I've got something special just for you. Introducing Riverford Organic, your gateway to fresh organic fruit and vegetable boxes delivered right to your doorstep. When you choose Riverford, you're not just eating organic, you're supporting an ethical business that believes in food that's good for the planet and your well-being. Eating organic means you're savouring food grown with care, free from harmful chemicals and absolutely bursting with flavour. By choosing Riverford, you're supporting a business that is committed to sustainability, is employee-owned and passionate about reducing food waste. Embrace the seasons with a rotating variety of fruits and vegetables, fresh, local and in harmony with nature. Riverford has been a game changer for our family and I think it could be for yours too. There is nothing more exciting for me than grabbing my Riverford box off my doorstep on delivery day. But there's more. As a treat for you guys, you can enjoy a £15 credit towards your second order. Simply sign up at theslowlivingcollective.com/Riverford to claim your credit and start your journey towards healthier, ethical and more seasonal eating. I think as well, when you really embrace these resources that you find locally, you will naturally fall into a more seasonal way of eating. And if you're not new here, you will know that seasonal eating is something that I'm super passionate about. And that's because things are in season at a certain time in a certain locality for a reason. It's because that is what we need at that time. So when we find apples in autumn, or when we find squash in October, or when we find tomatoes through the summer, there's a makeup in that produce that is serving our body with the right vitamins and minerals and everything else at just the right time. And just as an example, here in the UK, in the Northern Hemisphere, in winter, which we're currently in, we wouldn't see a banana. We wouldn't see a banana at all, let's be honest, not in this climate. So you could understand when you eat a banana, your body might go, what's this? Because it's not normal for people who live in this locality to be eating a banana, because let's be honest, we do not have that climate here. So all of these resources that you get just feeds back into baking, into cooking, into fermentation, into preserving your harvest, gardening, everything, which is the absolute heart of your homestead kitchen. So let's dive into gardening, because I feel like it's the next natural progression. So not everybody is going to have space to have a garden. When you're urban homesteading, you might be living in a high-rise apartment building, you might be living in a flat with a balcony, you might be living in a house with a garden. It's going to look different for absolutely everybody, but here are the things that I have done urban homesteading in my split level flat with a balcony. So I know I'm very lucky to have outdoor space, even in terms of having the balcony, because I have been able to do so much with the balcony. It always amazes me, and for a period of time it was all I had until I was able to get my allotment. Now, growing on the balcony is not easy all the time. There are certain things that don't work on a balcony, but let's be honest, you can give most things a go. Are you going to be able to self-sustain you and your family for the whole year? Probably not, but I can't even do that with my allotment, and some people can't even do that with their own homesteads. So don't be hard on yourself over this. Do what you can, figure out what works. You can grow potatoes in buckets. You can grow beetroot in pots. I've done it, it works. Not as big as in the ground, but it still works. You can grow tomato plants, tumbling tomatoes. You can grow strawberries, you can grow peppers. My balcony is a perfect spot for peppers because it's a south-facing balcony and it's super hot. You can pretty much try anything. I've done salads, I've done herbs, I've done potatoes, I've done beetroot, strawberries, lettuces. The only thing I really didn't ever try, so I can't say whether it works or not, is brassicas. I would say it would be difficult to get them as big, like get big cabbages and stuff, but I don't know. I think it could work because I certainly don't have any pests up on my balcony. As long as you can get it in a pot, give it a try, be experimental. You're only going to learn through trying. And that's all I did. Was I just thought, going to give it a go, and off I went. And yeah, I've grown so much on the balcony, and it is a perfect spot to be able to get started. Now, obviously, that gave me a massive taste for growing in general, and I put our name down on the list for an allotment, and we have been growing on our allotment for over 2 years now. About to head into our 3rd growing season. It's amazing. I'm sort of excited, overwhelmed, all of the stuff. But yeah, just looking forward to getting stuck in, and every year I sort of analyse like what worked, what didn't work, and how I am going to go forward. I had a really funky growing season last year, and if you're an allotment grower, maybe you have that, I don't know, maybe you can identify with me, or maybe you felt the same way before. I just felt like it was a bit of a chore last year, if I'm honest. I didn't love it, and I think that was because I was injured with my shoulder, and I just didn't love it. So I'm apprehensive about the next season because I don't want to fall out of love with it, because I love growing our own food. It's a real joy to me. So having the allotment is amazing. We've been able to grow so much. We have rhubarb, we have fruit trees such as gooseberries and raspberries, fruit bushes I should say, gooseberries and raspberries. We also have blackberries there. We do have fruit trees, but very young fruit trees, so they're not bearing fruit just yet, but we have apples, pears and a cherry tree. We also have, I'm like mentally walking around my allotment. So those are the things that are sort of, there all the time. We have grown cucumbers. We did amazing cucumbers in the greenhouse last year. We did cucumbers, beans. So we do runner beans and boleto beans, corn. We've also done lots of brassicas, Brussels sprouts, cabbage. We do peas, tomatoes, lettuce, squash, pumpkins, which is obviously a type of squash, strawberries, beetroot, leek, onions, garlic. Oh, you name it, I've tried it. And I am definitely going to be, I've got some episodes coming up where I'm going to get ready and sort of get planning. So if gardening's your thing, tune in. I'm going to do an episode on balcony gardening. So if you only have a balcony or a small space, tune into that, because there's so much, like I said, so much you can do. Another part of gardening, I guess, as well, goes beyond growing your own produce, is foraging as well. Now, I am not a pro forager by any means. I am pretty limited in what I forage for. Wild garlic is probably my limit. I would love to delve into more of that, but there is so much information out there about foraging. So basically, head and look on the internet, check out foraging, because there's so much you can find. And I think, foraging can be a great part of urban homesteading. We foraged a small amount of wild garlic last year. We sort of balanced the idea of, not taking too much, just taking a small amount and just working with that. I was very lucky where we take my daughter to forest school. There is an abundance of wild garlic in a really complicated place to reach, but I always take a small amount, and it's just perfect. I always find my eyes in wild garlic season are just always looking. Wild garlic is a super small season as well, but I actually, as well as foraging wild garlic, I also bought some wild garlic from Riverford as well, and I was able to make an abundance of wild garlic butter. And what I do is I basically just literally just grind up the wild garlic and mix it up with some butter, let it sort of solidify. I actually pop it while it's still in a liquid. I pop it into a ice cube tray and then let it solidify a little bit. Then I pop it in the freezer. Then I pop all of the ice cube wild garlic butters out, store them in a bag in the freezer, and then I literally just use them as and when. And I was still using my wild garlic up until about November last year, which is amazing. And actually I didn't really use it for things like making garlic bread or using it for garlic butter. Actually what I used it for most was making flatbreads, and I would mix the wild garlic butter into the mixture. And that just tasted amazing. It was so good. Definitely recommend it. So when wild garlic season rolls around, which won't be much longer, I guess, then I would just definitely head out and search for wild garlic. I think it's definitely sort of like the gateway to foraging. always remember to not take too much, just take a small amount, leave it so that it will come back year after year after year. And remember that you're not the only person that's probably going to be foraging wild garlic. Everybody loves to forage a bit of wild garlic. So once you've grown and foraged or accumulated all of this produce, where does it fit into your urban homestead kitchen? Well, there are so many different ways that you can preserve stuff. And things I like to do is turn fruits into jams. I like to make soups. Soups is a big one. I make my own stock. I haven't bought stock in years at this point, and so these things are like super easy to make, and I think we sometimes really make it seem like it's harder than it is. Stock, for example, is so easy to make. Let's say I'm cooking a chicken on a Sunday for some dinner. I cook up a chicken and we take the chicken that we want, and then we'll throw everything back into the slow cooker, because I always cook my roast dinner in the slow cooker. If you don't do your roast in the slow cooker, what are you doing with your life? It is amazing. You won't believe it until you've tried it, but it is incredible. Start doing your roast dinner in the slow cooker. It will change your life, I promise. So yeah, I always then just chuck the meat back in, bones and everything, and we'll throw in maybe vegetables, or vegetable scraps are great. Chuck it all in. Put a couple of litres of water over it, because we have a very large slow cooker. We have a 6.5 litre. And I just let it go for 12 to 24 hours on low. And when you have finished, when you pull it all out, you have the most amazing stock. And all you have to do is, again, decant it into ice cube trays and pop it in the freezer. When it's frozen, pop it out, store it in a bag, and as and when you need stock for sauces, gravies, casseroles, things like that, I just literally take a couple, maybe 2 or 3 ice cubes in some boiling hot water, let them, just dissolve, and then I'll throw them into the slow cooker with sausages, whatever I'm making, whatever it's required. And it's so simple, because when you make that stock and you've made basically 3 litres of it, that is going to last you for so long. You're going to get so many cubes. I have an entire drawer in my freezer that is filled with stock. And you can make, if you're not a meat eater, or you want to just make a vegetable stock, you can chuck in veggies and veggie scraps, chuck in some water, basically exactly the same, but just not the meat. And that also makes a fantastic stock as well. So go ahead and get that done, because it is amazing. And yeah, you can just use things several times. So basically, towards the end of last year, we had some chicken legs in our freezer, just 4 chicken legs, and we aren't big chicken leg eaters. That's not really, it's not really what we eat. I'm not a great lover of chicken legs, and just not really part of our diet. So we decided that the best thing we could do was, what if we made a chicken and vegetable soup? So we defrosted the chicken legs, we popped them in the slow cooker, we put a load of veg on top. I think we had carrot, parsnip, leek, I don't remember and some potatoes as well were in there. And then we just put a couple of litres of water over the top and let it simmer for about 12-ish hours on low. And when it was finished, it was beautiful. And so we took the chicken, I separated the chicken out, I got out all of the vegetables, I popped all the vegetables in the blender, blended it up into this really nice sort of chunky soup, added a little bit of the liquid that was left over, which was essentially stock at that point, and yeah, made this really nice soup. I shredded up the chicken from the chicken legs and mixed that in with the soup, and it was incredible. And so what was left over from that was a massive load of stock, a couple of litres of stock, because I didn't really use much in the soup, because I made it a sort of more chunkier soup. So I had a lot of stock and my chicken bones still left over. So I drained everything, kept the stock, did what I said, put it into ice cube trays, popped it in the freezer, and then popped it out into a bag for storage. And then I was still left with the chicken bones. And I thought I could run these through and make another batch of stock out of these. So I chucked the chicken bones, the chicken skin, back into the slow cooker. I chucked in a load of veggie scraps that we save our veggie scraps. We just pop them in a freezer bag and just pop them in the freezer and just add to them all the time. So we're ready when we're going to make stock. So I chucked the veggie scraps in, another couple of litres on top of all of that, let it simmer for 12 to 24 hours. And then I had another batch of stock. Did the same thing, ice cube trays, popped it out, store it. Amazing. I had so much stock from literally just one meal, really. And that will last us probably for the whole year. We have so much stock. It is amazing. And so, yeah, it's just simple things like that. It's just thinking about how you can really reuse and repurpose these things. Now, obviously, I couldn't have done it a third time. The meat would not have handled that anymore. You have to be sort of really thoughtful about what you're doing. But yeah, that really, really works. Stock is something that is so easy to make, and I think stepping away from shop bought stocks can only be a good thing. There's not a huge amount of great stuff in them. And there is also so many other things you can do. So many homesteaders and urban homesteaders will talk about sourdough. Sourdough is amazing. I love sourdough, but let's be honest, I don't always have time for sourdough. I don't always have time to maintain the starter. I don't always have time to do stretching and folding. I don't always have time to create the loaf. So I have found so much joy in the sourdough discard more than baking sourdough. So I make a lot out of sourdough discard. I make sourdough pancakes, or I make sourdough discard waffle fingers. I make sourdough discard crackers, which are immense. You have to try them. Head to my website, theslowlivingcollective.com. In the search function, type in sourdough. It will bring up so many different recipes for you. The sourdough discard crackers are to die for. They're so tasty and so good on your gut as well. Perfect fermentation, just tastes incredible. I bake all of my bread from scratch. We don't buy shop bought bread anymore, but I don't always do sourdough. I use my bread maker a lot. It works perfect for me. I have a slow, simple life that has busy elements to it. I am a home educator. We are out a lot. We are going to home ed groups. We are seeing family. We are busy a lot of the time, and I don't always have the time to devote to sourdough. And if you don't have time to devote to sourdough either, then you don't feel bad about it. It's not going to be the be all and end all. It's not going to define who you are as a homesteader. But I definitely recommend giving sourdough discard a try, because there is so much you can do with it, and you don't have to have the ultimate goal of making the loaf either. So definitely think about that. I bake all of our bread from scratch. We also will make, my husband also bakes bread from scratch. We will also often do the dough in the bread maker. That's a good function. We have a dough function, and so we can make rolls, or we just pop a loaf directly into the oven. However, we just do what we want and just enjoy it. We also have things like, we have a dehydrator, and people over the years, I've had a dehydrator since the year we got married. And so that is coming up 8 years we've had our dehydrator. And do I use it all year round? No. But does it get a lot of use? Absolutely. And I definitely recommend, if you're on the fence, I don't want to be an enabler to purchase something that you might not potentially need. But if you've been thinking about a dehydrator and you just wanted confirmation that it's not going to just sit in the cupboard all the time and get used like twice, then I'm here to tell you that it is something I use a lot in my homestead kitchen. I will do things like, I will core an apple and I'll do apple slices and I'll pop them in the dehydrator. They're a great snack for the kids. I also, when I do tomatoes, you can put them in the dehydrator. They taste incredible. You can just pop them out in salads. And so, yeah, I definitely recommend the dehydrator. Bananas are good. If you eat bananas, we ebb and flow with bananas. Like I said earlier, I know bananas are not necessarily seasonal for where I live, but they do taste good. So balance and all that. So yeah, dehydrator works really well. I would love to dive more into canning and, preserving things that way. There's a few really good books I have that I will link in the notes for this episode. One is called Preserving the Harvest, and the other one is something about freezing, but it tells you, it's a really good guidance and step-by-step how to preserve your harvest, whether that be the harvest that you've grown yourself or whether it be the harvest that you bought from the supermarket. It all applies. So yeah, I will link those books and you can go and check them out. But there are so many different things you can do with food preservation. Like I said, one of my friends, she always gives me quince, which are amazing. And I like to make them into jam. But also when we go strawberry picking in the summer, we get an abundance of strawberries and usually raspberries. I make those into jam. And yeah, as long as you make these things shelf stable, there is so much information online that you can look up about how to make something shelf stable. You can have things that last and last and last. The year before, 2022, I made this amazing apple and beetroot chutney from beetroot that we grew at the allotment, and it was amazing. And my husband was like, you need to make it again. But my beetroot failed this year, so never mind. Maybe that'll be a next year job. But there's so much you can do. There's so much information online as well. And, I've mentioned things like my bread maker and my dehydrator. I am not big on pounding my kitchen out with all of these items, but there are some things that I recommend for myself. So you can work out whether it's something that would work well in your kitchen. So slow cooker is an absolute must for us. We have a salter slow cooker. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to link all of these things in the notes so you can go and check out what I have, and then if it's something that you like, you can easily find it. But I have a salter 6.5 litre slow cooker, and I love it. I had a 6.5 litre crock pot when we first got married, and it was huge, right? It felt so big with just the two of us. It never filled it. And there's 4 of us now, but the kids are only 2 and 4. They're not taking up much space, but we use the whole 6.5 litres. It's the perfect size for a big family. And if you've got a bigger family than just 4, it will still work. So yeah, the 6.5 litre salter slow cooker I have. We have a bread maker. We only recently replaced our bread maker late last year because we had our bread maker forever. My husband had the bread maker before he met me. We have been together 11 and a half years now, and the bread maker definitely predated me by many, many, many years. So I have no idea how old this bread maker was. He had no idea either, and eventually it gave up. We saved it several times. We replaced the paddle a couple of times and things like that. But other than that, it was, we gave it a good life. We extended its life a lot, but we had to replace it because it started smoking. So it really did give up. And so we replaced it with a newer version of itself, the Morphy Richards Home Bake. It's a really, really good bread maker, and actually one of the things I was most excited about when I got it out of the box was that it also does yogurt as well. So that's something we've been trialing too. It does so many things, like a basic loaf, a French loaf, dough, fast bake. I can't even think. It's got like 12 or something functions on it, but yeah, we often use it for baking a loaf. We will use it for dough a lot. So we can either do a loaf in the oven, or we can make bread rolls. And we also are now, like I say, trialing out the yogurt function because that's pretty cool too. And then we have a dehydrator. We have a circular dehydrator, and we have quite a big drawer in our kitchen. It's very easy to store it in there. But like I say, it's something that we use fairly frequently, and I wouldn't be without it. I do believe you can replicate dehydrating in the oven. So if that's something you want to try, I think it's probably cheaper to run the dehydrator than it is to have the oven on low. But I'm not really sure about that. So yeah, those are probably the 3 main things that I would say are the equipment that I use in my kitchen. My coffee maker as well, but that's just to keep me caffeinated. There is so much that exists in a homestead kitchen, and I don't mean in terms of stuff. I mean just, what takes place in a homestead kitchen. It is the absolute heart of the home, and there are we could talk for hours on this, about preserving stuff and recipes and storage solutions and creating your own pantry. And maybe I'll come back to this topic in a later episode and we'll dive into a certain topic in a bit more detail. But I hope that was really helpful, and I hope if you take one thing away from this episode, it's that homesteading looks different to everybody, whether you're a homesteader or an urban homesteader. And I hope that you go away just thinking that actually, no, I can get started. I can do these things. I don't have to have outside space. I don't have to have the farm. I don't have to have the homestead. And that you just go away and just start doing the things that you're passionate about and that inspire you. That's what I want you to take away, because the kitchen is the heart of your urban homestead, and I think that once you get started, you will be able to create this thriving, sustainable and self-sufficient life wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Slow Living Collective podcast. I hope you found inspiration in our shared journey towards a life that is mindful, deliberate, and rich with meaning. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing and don't forget to leave a review. Your feedback is absolutely invaluable and it helps other people find the show as well. Remember, embracing a slower, more intentional way of life is an ongoing practice, and I am so grateful to have you on this path with me. Until next time, savour each moment, find joy in simplicity, and continue to live in tune with the seasons. As we conclude this episode, I want to leave you with a gentle reminder. The beauty of a deliberate and unhurried life can be found in the smallest of moments. So living is not just a lifestyle, it's a profound and enriching journey towards a life filled with purpose and contentment. If you'd like to connect with me online, you can find me on Instagram at The Slow Living Collective. And if you're searching for a supportive community of like-minded individuals to exchange ideas with, don't forget to explore the Slow Living Collective membership at theslowlivingcollective.com. There you'll discover a wealth of resources, help, support, guidance, courses, ebooks, videos, and so much more to assist you on your journey towards a slower and more simpler life. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I am truly grateful for your presence and I look forward to our next episode. Until then, may your days be filled with intention and purpose. Take care, and I will see you in the next episode.